Hello, my name is Cole Goodyear, and for my Tech Talk, I've decided to talk to y'all a little bit about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a decentralized, anonymous, cryptographically secure digital currency. It does not rely on a central server to process transactions. Um, there are peer-to-peer transactions, which are nearly instant, very low cost, and little to no risk of counterfeiting, chargebacks, or double spending. There's no banks or middlemen required. Bitcoin is finite and not controlled by a governing body that can continue to print more of it, thus diluting its value. So it's a good way to look at it is Bitcoin is the internet of money. It can be exchanged and managed through various websites and software. So how does Bitcoin work? Bitcoin is comprised of two major parts, which is the blockchain and the blocks. I guess we'll start with the blocks. So blocks are transaction data that are recorded in files. They can be thought of as the individual pages of like a city recorder's record book or a stock transaction ledger. Blocks are organized into a linear sequence over time, which is the blockchain, which I'll talk about in a second. New transactions are constantly being processed by Bitcoin miners into new blocks, which are then added to the end of the chain and can never be changed or removed once accepted by the network. Um, so then when you put a bunch of those together, you get the blockchain, which is a distributed public ledger that is hosted by computers all around the world. Every Bitcoin transaction that occurs can be verified by reviewing the blockchain. Bitcoin miners are constantly creating new blocks containing new transactions, and by reviewing these transactions, you can establish how much Bitcoin is being stored at any public address at any point in time. So there's no way for there to be anything counterfeit. Everything is public record. Everything is out there for the public eye to see. Here's a quick video that will help make more sense of it. And once you guys click and go ahead and watch this video, I can go into a couple more parts of it in depth. But this should give you a pretty good understanding at the surface of what Bitcoin is. So if you like what you see and you decide you want to start collecting Bitcoin, you might be asking, so how do I acquire these Bitcoin? Well, there is a thing called a Bitcoin wallet, which is basically a software program that manages public addresses and their corresponding private keys that are assigned to each wallet. There are several software wallets to choose from. Each have their own positives and negatives, being maybe how long it takes for the Bitcoin to become yours, um, different settings about the private keys and stuff. You can find several different services online that will help store and manage your Bitcoin. There's websites, phone apps. You can get hardware wallets if you feel like you want to be more in control of physically holding on to your currency in the form of a USB. But if you do that, you have to be careful because if you lose your USB, you lose your Bitcoin. So it's almost like losing your wallet in real life. If you had $100 cash in it and you lose it, there's no way to recoup that cash. Bitcoin is the same way as that. So, what are the concerns of investing some of your United States dollars into Bitcoin? At the surface, Bitcoin is an experimental digital currency. I mean, right now, the market for it is basically people that are buying and trading Bitcoins, but technically, I guess there's no real monetary value of Bitcoin other than what others are creating its worth of, which is its own tech talk in its own. But um, there are people that are worried that if the government comes out and says, "Hey, Bitcoin's illegal," something that's worth $7,000-8,000 per Bitcoin is now worth actually nothing. There's no real regulations or governing bodies that monitor it. Some people view it as a Ponzi scheme. It's very difficult to associate Bitcoin identities with real life identities. Um, Bitcoin by nature is very volatile. I mean, you used to be able to buy dozens of coins for $10, and now each Bitcoin is worth around $6,500 or $7,000, but the value of it is always changing, and it's something that if you look up right now when you're watching this video, it's probably worth something different than what it was when I created the video. So there's a lot of fluctuations. Sometimes it's worth a lot. Right now it's really booming and going through the roof, but there are simple things that could change it and substantially devalue it. So you never really know when to buy, when to sell. It's the nature of that kind of market. Bitcoin is also attractive to sellers and consumers of illegal products and services. I'm sure you've heard of the Silk Road, where you could access the darknet and buy, drugs or any other illegal services like that, and it's impossible to trace a Bitcoin and associate it with a real-life identity if you've taken the proper routes to ensure that. So Bitcoin was a way to finance some morally less than sound ideals. So yeah. That's all I've got for you today on Bitcoin. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the discussion board, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Thanks.